Hello, guys. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Shubhra, somebody? Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Valli Bolavaram. I am the Vice President for Software Engineering at Optum Global Solutions. Next slide, please. So before I we dwell into today's topic on AI and where are the women in AI, I wanted to give a brief overview on what our company is. We are called United Health Group, and we are a bunch of companies under United Health Group umbrella, bunch of entities, if you will. We are Optum Global Advantage. That's what we call ourselves in India. We have United Healthcare, we have Optum Insights, Optum Labs, Optum RX. So different entities form United Health Group. And we are a Fortune 5 company. And roughly our revenue last year was around 257 billion. Next slide, please, Millie. So today's agenda, Millie and I are partnering to talk about, give a brief intro of what is AI and ML, how does it work, how is AI and the business working together, a little bit around practical applications of AI, and then some small snippets around AI in healthcare, and then what is the Optum experiences and the skill set that is required. We'll walk you through all of that, and then we'll walk you through how what we've done at Optum to help our team members become more and more well versed in AI and ML. Okay, next slide, please. Millie, next slide, please. Okay, thank you. All of you must have heard by now artificial intelligence. I won't drain the slide, but artificial intelligence is as opposed to human intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence is trying to mimic human intelligence using a bunch of rules and decisions and things like that. For example, a human into human int, right? Humit, that's what everybody calls it, as opposed to artificial intelligence. Human intelligence is, when you see something, you automatically, your brain processes things, and artificial intelligence is trying to replicate some parts of it. How you make a decision, what you see when you see something. They use something called machine learning, and machine learning is nothing but, there are based on a bunch of data that you get, you apply some statistical analysis and techniques on it, and then you come back with, okay, this is the results based on what a bunch of data is saying. And then deep thinking is nothing but, it is a subset of machine learning. It is a bunch of algorithms that allow a piece of code to perform a task like speech and image recognition based on all the data that is available and based on all the neural networks that are there. And basically, if anybody talks to you about AI, machine learning, and deep thinking, it is how much data do you have and how many techniques you can apply, whether it is algorithms, whether it is machine learning, how, whether it is automation, you apply all of these things to make sense and come up with decisions. That is what AI and ML is all about. Next slide, please. So how is it? How does it work? It is, artificial intelligence, as I've just explained, is not a singular technology. You can use different kinds of technologies, different kinds of, languages like Python, C, C++, age old Java, anything you can use to actually create machine learning algorithms. And you will hear a lot of people talk about natural language processing. So that's what Google is. The best example is Google. You go in and you type, you know, what is the best show today for Friday, for example. Google, that's a natural language processing. You're not sending, bits and bytes. You're not sending anything in a particular like a subroutine or anything. You're just typing in English, and Google can translate it into what it means to the machine, and then the answers come out. That is the best example that I can give for AI and natural language processing. Next slide, please. So, why is everybody talking about AI right now? AI and the business, the global. Let's talk about how much global GDP will be up to 14% higher in 2030 as a result of accelerating development and of AI. In many sectors, business has grown by 270% over the last 4 years with the usage of AI. And 62% of consumers are willing to use AI to improve their experiences. I gave you the Google example. Everybody is using Google, and there's a lot of AI and NLP that goes into it. And then some things around Optum. Third annual Optum survey on AI in healthcare. 83% of healthcare organizations have some kind of a strategy for AI in place, because everybody wants to understand and know what is going on with them, especially after the pandemic. People want to understand their symptoms without actually walking into a doctor's office, and AI strategies help in that a lot. Next slide, please. So let's talk about a little bit about practical application of AI. Think about businesses automating processes. For example, everybody knows we go for to shop on a website, and then immediately a chatbot comes up saying, hey, you looked at this, you like this, you put this in the cart, and then you left the website. Can I help you with something? What was it that you were looking for? These are something that is very synonymous with any website that we visit today. So that is nothing but a practical application of AI. Productivity gains from businesses augmenting employees' skills and can you guys Can you guys hear me, Millie? I'm waiting for the slide to come through. Sorry, guys, I'm working from home. I'm sure we all have these challenges with connections. I'm just waiting for the deck to show. So while the deck is coming up, I was giving an example about McDonald's and how McDonald's is helping and assisting the person who is taking the order by converting speech into most often used orders. So that increased their productivity by almost 50%. The other thing that we could talk about is increased consumer demand resulting from availability of personalized and higher or quality AI enhanced products and services. You see this a lot when you're shopping on retail websites. People who, for example, you go to order a piece of clothing, you buy some, you click on something, and then immediately you see people who have bought this have also bought that, or people who buy this will get 20% discount when you buy something else. So you see all these things, whether it's on Amazon, whether it's on walmart.com, or even when you come to something as simple as you go to Mintra, you go to any of these websites, you see that there's a lot of personalization based on your shopping experiences and shopping choices. AI subroutines are put together so that they come back and they give you they give you options to shop more from. So these are all practical applications of AI and deep learning. Next slide, please. So, why focus on AI women technologists? So, we've established so far, all that we've been trying to do is to establish that AI, machine learning, deep thinking, all of these things are mainstream now. Everybody is going to be using it. All businesses are going to be using it. It's no longer just retail. I've given you examples in retail and other areas. Healthcare is catching up very quickly, and AI is going to be all pervasive. Hence, it is very important for women to start breaking into AI and ML kind of jobs. So in 2020, some facts here: women represented roughly 47% of the U.S. labor force. 2020 World Economic Forum report, however, found that women make up only 26% of data and AI positions. So roughly, half. And so this is why this is so important for women to break into AI, because this is where the future is. Next slide, please. I think here this is where I give it to you, Millie. Millie is going to walk us through what are some of the skills that are required for AI technologists. How do you go about learning, getting more comfortable in AI, and then figuring out how you can get into this career from an AI perspective. Millie, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Vali. Good afternoon, good evening. This is Mili Mitra. I'm a director in software engineering at Optum, and I have 22 plus years of experience, and I'm currently managing engineering, modernization, and delivery projects. Uh, as Vali was mentioning about the skills, as you see that to start on AIML as a career, it's important to have a data driven mind so that we can look at the data and understand patterns and understand the value, and that is why the key is to have an analytic bent of mind. Second is, Wali did mention about programming languages, and if we see over here, Python is right up on the list because of the simplicity which it carries, and of course there are other programming languages as well, which are heavily used in this field. Apart from that, what is important is to develop the skill to understand the signal processing techniques, to see the how the data is getting analyzed and to interpret the data. So having knowledge and practice on that helps. Neural network architecture. Bali mentioned about the fact that AI is pretty much used, and through neural network architectures, you will be able to understand and bring and assist the ways to understand the human brain as well. And that is how you see nowadays AI and ML is extensively used in speech recognition as well. And this is just one of the examples. With that, I'm going to go towards deep into healthcare. As you all heard, that there is a lot of opportunity in the healthcare space. Now, typically, there are various medical conditions which are detected. Earlier, what used to happen was that physicians used to understand the x rays, the scans, the images. But with AI, the patterns, how the physicians are using and analyzing different conditions can be patternized, and that can help in actually saving time, where some of the easy conditions can be typically used to do it using AIML, and the physician's time can pretty much be used to detect more complex conditions. Second point. Now, when we have the different care providers, whether it is nurses or doctors, uh, how do we enable and make our members or patients more powerful? And that is why how AIML is going to play or is playing a great role in next best action. For example, those patients who are critically ill, AIML can help in providing the disease diagnostics from the various systems, and these disease conditions or data, when it reaches the care providers, they can actually look at the data and provide data at the right time or facilitation at the right time to our patients in terms of providing them preempt prevention procedures which they can go through to get normalized in their disease conditions, or even provide them apps which can trigger certain steps which they can make it as part of their daily routine. And I'm actually referring to certain feeds or certain actions or certain messages which we can provide to our patients so that they can prevent themselves from going into a vulnerable disease condition. Apart from that, AIML can play a great role in predicting outbreaks. So imagine a situation when there are pockets of various cities who are in vulnerable situations of diseases, say diabetes, and there are pockets of the city who have more of patients in those vulnerable conditions. And with the help of AIML, with the help of the analytics and patterns recognition which we can do using AIML, we can actually demonstrate and find out the scoring with respect to the health conditions of the members. And with that scoring, through AIML, we can actually focus on the patients who are at a very risky condition of their disease. And by attacking them and helping them at the right time, we can actually help them in improving their health score and ultimately the patient experience. And that, if studied further, can also help us in identifying the predictions, what will help in bringing the preventive fact where AIML can play and is playing a considerable role. AIML also plays a very significant role in healthcare care in administrative areas. And one such area is claim processing. Now, imagine that there are payers who are sending their claims, and there is a lot of pressure on organizations like Optum and other similar businesses, where there is a pressure on the clinicians to be able to analyze those claims in a faster manner. And that is where AIML comes into the picture. It can help in tremendously in the revenue cycle management. And how it can do that is that, again, the patterns in which the clinicians are reviewing the cases, we can identify and use AIML significantly around the areas which can be reviewed faster using the AIML patterns, machine learning, and then physicians can focus on only the complex areas. So, in a way, it has helped us in expediting and providing reduced costs in the revenue cycle management as well. Apart from that, think about situations where our members and patients are calling the different, I would say, the CFRs. And there, what can happen is looking at the pattern in which the calls are handled by the different agents. AIML can also identify patterns where it helps us in routing the calls to those members, to those agents who can really understand the disease condition and provide them solutions in a more faster manner. So so exactly the point which I'm trying to make is around intelligent call routing. Apart from that, AIML is also helping in the interpretation of the patient notes by replacing manual aspect and bringing in again the aspect of pattern recognition and machine learning. Apart from that, AIML is playing a significant role in understanding the data which is coming from the various sensors, and that pretty much helping in not only providing the right care at the right time to our patients, but it is also helping in the predictions for the future as well. With that, I'm going to talk about some of the key experiences in Optum. As you see, there are 25,000 healthcare experts right now. They are involved in solving many complex problems in healthcare. Optum has set up Optum Labs, and it was founded in 2013. And some of the key areas where we have research going on and we have successful implementation of use cases, the first one being the revenue cycle management, which I just explained in detail. Optimizing administrative processes. There are appeals which are filed by members, and using AIML, you can actually suggest the agents that to which appeals to focus first. Apart from that, when a patient comes in, sometimes what happens is that patient is locally trying to get the the solution to the problem which he or she is into. And after going through phases of I would say iterations, the patient then reverts to a specialized clinic. Say, I'm just taking an example of, say, Mayo Clinic. And what can happen is that AIML can certainly help in providing improved clinical pathways for the patient. And how? Because it will enable the pre and the post experience of the patient, and that will actually help determine that what will be the best suited clinical pathways which we can provide to our patient. And ultimately, through all of this, what we want to achieve in healthcare is how do we reduce the cost of care? And how do we do that? By analyzing the data, which is of the population health management. Through that analysis, we come up with areas where we can help them in fasten the administrative processes. And the third area around the patient's disease conditions. What are the various interventions we can provide pre, during the disease conditions, and even post? I'm talking about referral visits, where AI ML can play and is playing a significant role. Now, with that, I would like to talk about some of the programs which we already have in Optum. uh, and one of the key things is the training programs. It is not only about understanding the different aspects of how to bring that data driven aspect, but it is also about picking up the programming language right, and the various algorithms, the various libraries. And that's why the training programs are the key. And with the training programs are packaged various assessments, understanding of the business use cases, so that we are able to build AIML engineers with not only the understanding of how to implement AIML, but to first identify the use case rightly. And that pretty much goes into the second phase, which is to have mentor circles where we have mentors who have implemented use cases, and they have a set of mentees where they spend time with them and talk about practical use cases and the benefits, right from the identification of the use case to the various techniques which were used in the implementation of it, and then the deployment. Because in any AIML implementation, it is key that we are able to calibrate. And Wali mentioned about natural language processing, where we need to play a role to learn to make the algorithm learn about different intents, and then only we will be able to achieve an accuracy. Technical forums where the typical problems of AIML implementation are discussed through various blogs, Yammer channels. And this pretty much goes on to the next phase, where there are, in the projects, we have one-on-one coaching as well. And as an organization, to trigger the continuous innovation culture is that we have a platform of global hackathons, about white papers, and an event oriented culture where we are able to trigger innovation only not once a year, but it keeps on happening through various events which keep on happening at the project's level as well. And ultimately also promoting AIML centers of excellence, where all these experts come together and they pretty much provide learning programs, they provide the coaching to various engagements, so that we are able to together march towards the agenda of AIML. With that, I'm going to talk about some of the careers in AI. Definitely machine learning researchers who are really very privy to the trends and the algorithms, the various libraries, and that will help them in identifying the right pattern and also implementing by using the right algorithm. AI engineers who can really study, analyze the use cases, and identify, and also very privy around the implementation of it. Data mining and analysis. For every organization to achieve the level of maturity for AIML, it is very important to have the focus towards data. Because if we have the data quality right, and if we have the right mechanisms to do the analytics, and if we have the right tools to visualize the data, that's where the data mining and analysis engineer comes into place. Machine learning engineers are people who understand algorithms very well and they are able to implement it. Data scientist. Now, for any AIML project to be successful, it is not only about understanding the use case, it is also about implementation, it is also about the various iterations which you do, so that you're able to achieve the accuracy. And that's where a full blown data scientist comes into play. Business intelligence developer is a person who can really use the business intelligence tools, so that the data can be visualized and can be demonstrated, and that helps in identifying the patterns of the various data elements. With that, I actually come to the conclusion of this masterclass, where we are saying that AI in healthcare captures not only how AI is becoming increasingly the norm, but how it benefits, and how the various ways in which the industry can overcome the pitfalls and bring in the widespread use of artificial intelligence. These are various articles and reports which can be referenced and studied, and that's all we have for today. We can jump to the questions. Okay, so there is a question around female participation in AI at a very insignificant level. How can we adjust this trend? I think the first step towards this is that, as Wali was mentioning, right? The need to understand from the top level that there is a need towards focusing on women, and it starts right from the hiring as well of women technologists who have already done some implementations in AI. It also talks about the fact that in the organization, whether we are promoting inclusion and diversity tracks focused on AI ML, where we are encouraging trainings for women as well as others as well on the various aspects of understanding this as a career, bring in experts so that we can encourage forums where other women, other SMEs share their experience about what does it mean a career in AIML, and also encourage hackathons where these women participate. And WIT is a great platform where we have hackathons, and women itself partner in the form of various teams, and they can participate in these hackathons and get their confidence that this line works for them as well. And apart from that, what will also be encouraging is that to also focus on peer to peer coaching and one-on-one mentoring in projects as well, where there are successful use cases already being implemented. We bring in our women colleagues as well so that they learn, and they can also go back and identify use cases accordingly. Okay, so the next question about is that, does having similar producers or single gender in the A- AI technologies going to help the whole of humanity in the long run? I would say that uh, to promote AI technologies, we need to have the whole, every person who is there in IT thinking about AI, thinking about the various use cases which can be used in implementation of an AI. It is about the top down approach, it is about the bottom up as well, where we all together understand and the importance of ANI, and to be able to build that strategy so that we together can march toward AIML as a career. Okay, so there is another question which talks about, can women professionals switch to AI field if they are in the initial years of their career? Absolutely, because as we shared that what you need in the AIML career is definitely a data driven mindset, and if we have the good understanding of linear algebra, about statistics, we can certainly take AIML as the career. And if we have understanding of Python as the programming language or any other programming languages which we just mentioned, and has a love for data, certainly that person can definitely build career in AIML. How to bring in women into AI if they are not from technical background? Even if they are not from the technical background, I'm sure they must have studied maths in their schools and colleges, and that is the first step towards understanding the fact that, I have the data driven mind. And then learning programming languages and the I would even say that talking to certain people who are already there in the AIML line and identifying the area which interests the most. It could be that the person is interested in the data side of it. So be it. So pick up data mining as your career, where you are looking at the data, you are identifying the patterns, you are using the tools, and you are able to visualize the data. Or if the interest is that, I want to go towards the line where I want to write algorithms, then of course the programming language understanding of Python will help in writing accordingly the algorithms, and the person can think about taking the career in AIML. Do you have a role for returnee women? Now, I see many organizations right now have programs where they have diversity only programs as well for rehiring, and there are such programs in Optum as well. Can you suggest trainings for AIML for beginners? I think the first step towards understanding AIML is to brush the concepts of statistics. That is the first beginning program I would recommend. And that program will actually help us identify that how much interest the person has towards data. Do you have some short term programs for budding entrepreneurs? There are a lot of programs nowadays offered by many online training, I would say, organizations, and they are providing 1 week courses, 2 week courses on AIML. They have courses on Python for data science, and there are long born courses also provided by a lot of institutes like Triple IT Bangalore. They do provide. I would say AIML courses which runs into 1 year, 2 year. And if you're thinking really about short term programs, then there are a lot of capsule programs which are offered by the online training organizations. Does an early introduction of AI to girls at a tender age would help develop their interest to the field? I would say the early introduction of AI to girls is, first of all, the introduction towards STEM education, you know, which is the understanding of the mathematical concepts. Second is to stay curious, about the various implementations of AI which are already available. Say, how, I mean, what is Alexa? How does it work? Understanding about various integrated devices which are there today, and discuss with the girls about what do they think about it, what do you think it is happening in the background. And then I see a lot of focus right now on coding, and that is where we need to push our girls too, so that they are able to, from a very tender age, be able to create things. And the simplest thing is a code, and that will help in developing the self confidence in them as they move forward. Do you suggest to change career to AI for someone who is more than 15 years of experience in other technologies? Absolutely. It is all about making yourself as diverse as possible. After 15 years, if you feel that, AIML is a career which is interesting you, and as we shared during this talk, AI is something which is integral in all sectors. And if that is true, it is very much possible to switch lines even after 15 years of your career in a different line. But the only thing you need to be confident about is that data and understanding of data is interesting you. And that is where you need to start getting curious and talk to your peers who are already in that line about the various use cases and how did they implement it. What does success mean in the AIML career? Understanding about the different technology aspects which are needed to build a career there. And for any leader who is there in the technology field, it is important that the person has an understanding of the emerging technologies, and AIML is one of them. Understanding the concepts of where it can be applied is something integral nowadays. So definitely a change in career can very much be possible even after 15 years of experience. How important is to pick business skills to drive AIML in your group? As we were sharing in the talk, it is very important that we understand the technology aspect of AIML, but we can only implement only if we have a good understanding of the business of where we want to go ahead and apply AIML. So understanding and having the business acumen is a key to actually implement AIML. How do you evangelize AIML in your area? I think the key is first to have the acceptance from the top leadership that this is an area of focus for us. And what does that mean? That means is that the insight of developing an intelligent strategy, that which are the core areas we are going to focus on as in the AIML area. Once that top level strategy is there, it is important to talk and to the business leaders, to the IT leaders about the various things or the various use cases we can do with AIML, and then have post two sessions where they come up with their business problems, and we as AIML technologists can suggest to them that, oh, this can be a good use case of AIML and we should certainly go ahead with it. And apart from that, from the organization level, we need to have various ways of talent transformation, which we talked in the talk today. How do you explain ML to a non technical person? Now, as you understand, that you all must have seen that when you go to Facebook, you get all of those feeds. Those are all about driven by algorithms. When you go to Netflix, you get a lot of recommendations. That is all through machine learning. Any other questions? Okay, what is the common misconception of AI? I think one of the things which people generally feel is that, oh, you know what, AI is going to replace humans. But that's not true. We are using AIML as a technology which can help our physicians so that we are able to give that time to them so that they can focus on the most complex cases. And I talked about the appeals case. We want to help the business so that we are able to focus on the appeals which are of highest priority. Wali was talking about chatbots. Now, using AI ML, we want to focus on the chatbots which assist the people who are using. For example, if I have a chatbot for the business, I want to provide the intents or the various features which generally a business uses. So, for example, in Alexa, we are generally providing requests to Alexa, play a song for me, or can you turn on my the geyser. Now these are all intents. We are in a progressive manner, we are trying to educate Alexa, and calibrating the different kinds of requests we are getting through time. And that is all about the natural language processing technique. So, AI is, I would say, a technology which is actually helping us to ease our tasks, and the and that is why we as part of technology, we are thinking about use cases which are implementable using AI ML in every sector of the industry. And that is how we need to be understanding AI. And I think this is the last question. And thank you so much for the questions. The questions were great. And I hope you all enjoyed the session from me and Wali. And have a great Friday and a nice weekend. Thank you.